Hello, welcome to the Lonely Show. I'm your host, John Lonely, and in this episode, I've not brought on regular because they're busy as always. However, as for our guest, he's from LA in South California. He's working security detail. He's a blogger and vlogger, and he also has been working for the last 4 months as a security guard. And yeah, we got a lot more to dive into because, ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you Ramzy Sweets.
Thank you, Mr. Clemenson, and thank you for inviting me onto the show. I'm a longtime fan and listener, and um, a big protege of yours.
Oh, okay, that's nice. That's great to hear. So, how's life?
Good, good. I actually been security since not since 2000 almost a little over 3 years.
Oh, okay, okay. And
Yeah.
how are you finding it?
Well, I mean, security basically you do all the work that the police aren't doing.
Hmm.
So all the tedious loose ends and hangnails and all the foot patrol and anything anywhere the cops don't want to go.
Okay. Interesting. And tell me more about what you do outside of being a security guard.
Yeah, so I I do sometimes yesterday I worked from 12 in the morning until 12 at night, so I worked actually 24 hours. So a lot of times I'll be blogging, vlogging. I performed stand up for 4 years. But but now a lot of the clubs there's no access, and really there's no really definition anymore to uh to what a comedian is. I mean, a lot of people think that Donald Trump is a comedian, and he's never done comedy.
Mhm. Yeah, I can
So
see that.
yeah, so I really tried for in my heyday to I built an app, and I tried to create a meritocracy, establish an industry based on merit where a comedian doesn't have to say, "Oh well, um, I'm better than you because I've been performing for 40 years," as opposed to somebody that's on SNL that's 18 years old. Because SNL, they hire young when you're like 19, 20. So a lot of these people, it really shuffles the deck, because it's like, all right, well, why are some people performing like Richard Pryor or Andrew Dice Clay for 40, 50, 60 years? And then there's somebody that just literally just went on stage yesterday, like Pete Davidson, and now he's, you know, richer than John Lennon. So, yeah, obviously, it didn't, my idea didn't, uh, it didn't, it didn't have any fruition. It didn't have any success.
Okay. Okay. So, what was life for you growing up?
Well, I mean, I was the middle child, and I tried to be the center of attention, and I had a pretty bad concussion when I was in seventh grade. So I kind of just been kind of trying to again be center of attention, but also um, I mean, I try to be the class clown and the center of attention. So I tried to be a bad boy, but like in a good way. Like I tried, you know, um,
Yeah, I
if
see
that
where you're
makes.
coming. I see where you're going with this. Okay.
Like I remember my first show and tell. I walked up there, and I had remember show and tell when you were growing up, or no?
Um, um, I don't think we have that where I'm from.
Oh, in the '80s, there used to be this game when you were in elementary school, junior high, where you would grab something from your house, like a a toy, or and then you go to school and you go to the front of the class and you talk about it. And um, so yeah, I mean, um, I remember, I went to I had a I went my teacher, Mr. Engelbrett, had me go on the front of the class, and I had some BBs, and then I remember there was ended up being like a BB gun, like a BB war fight, and um, so I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess I was locked into uh, a a toolbox when I was younger, while I was in class. So a lot of um, I won a couple of awards, and so um, yeah, I mean, I tried to be normal, but that concussion that I had, it kind of um, made me a little bit different. So
Oh, okay. So, what do you like doing in your free time?
yeah, exactly. Um, so I mean, I've always been an outdoors person, an outdoorsy, kind of a vagrant, nomad, vagabond. I like to be one with nature, camping. Um, I like I was saying, I did that stand up for a few years. I still have an app, and I still create memes, every day, and I have a page with 10,000 followers, and I have another page called Good Cop, Good Cop. So that's what I was saying. It's like comedians are supposed to be naughty, but then I do security, so I'm supposed to be, on my best behavior. But like Dave Chappelle, he has in the Guinness Book of World Records, he holds the record for 14 hours. And so for me, when I was at Red Roof Inn yesterday, that's the same thing. I just go there like a totem pole. I just stand there, in front of the door. I know you have that in England for the Queen of England. There's a lot of guards. So in my spare time, I do 15, 16, 17-hour shifts as a security guard at the mall, and then sometimes when there's a lot of traffic, obviously I behave, and if there's not, I have a log, and I'll just start. My officers, they don't care as much anymore as they used to when you have a daily report. So I just make it for myself. I fill a daily report. I go on my page on Facebook, or I go on Amazon, and I post my blogs. Like when I was at the DMV for 6 months, um, you meet some of the most miserable people, and but it's ironic because as a security guard, you're the first one there and the last one out. So I did a lot of vlogging. I made a lot of 2 hour, I made a lot of Snapchats that were only like 1 minute each. But over the period of the year of the 6 months, I you see a lot as a security guard, and the cool thing is that you're not supposed to do anything. You just see it and you report it. That's basically all that your post commander and the command watch wants. The watch command. They don't want you. If you see somebody that gets hurt, they don't want you to do anything. They just want you to report it.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And
So I'm very good at my job. I've worked Stater Brothers all across California. That's the only grocery store in California. I was actually hired by the person that the owner of Stater Brothers before he passed away. So
wow.
yeah, I've worked for Post Malone. I've worked for Kendrick Lamar. So yeah, I really enjoy my job. I recently applied to the work at Pelican Bay, but they denied my request because, well, I don't want to get into that. But what were you saying?
Well, I was going to ask you, what do you like about being a security guard?
Well, I mean, one of my favorite shows as a kid, it was these three animals. It was like an eagle and a bear and a wolf, and they would, whenever they were in trouble, they would get on top of each other like a totem pole. And so I mean, that's basically what it is. It's there's a lot of action, my favorite part as a security guard is people will come in there and be like, say, "Man, aren't you bored? You know, you stand up all day. You know, how do you do it? How do you? And I, I, I just can't sit. A lot of times, as in high school, as a student, people would uh, clown me and say, "Oh, look at Ramzy. His feet doesn't touch the ground." So, you know, my spine and I have to be out there standing 14, 15 hours a day, just because that's how my body is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was built for this, and I'm around people, hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. I was working at a Star Wars convention last Friday. So I did a Super Bowl, and so I'm always around people, and that's people. I've always had I've always been a people person. People have always been attracted to me. It's not like I don't get stressed out, like yesterday I got my fourth speeding ticket. So, I am normal, but I also do, I'm actually, I'm introverted. I like to be around people, but at the same time, as a writer, if you want to be able to write the next great American novel, as they call it, you have to appreciate being apart from the public. You have to be as a writer, you have to be introverted and extroverted, or as a comedian, if you're analyzing it, you have to be, that's what my dad used to say growing up. You'll never be a writer because you haven't experienced much. And uh and that's true. I mean, you can't just, Kurt Vonnegut said, you can't just open the window and make love to the world. He didn't, if you know anything about Kurt Vonnegut, he didn't sell his first book until he was like 70s, in his 70s. um, and if you look at a lot of authors, Hemingway, Faulkner, anybody that you've ever, Hunter Thompson, a lot of these writers, um, they'll say right during the interview, like, they're not ashamed of drinking. They had to drink, and in order to become successful. And a lot of these people didn't become successful until after they died. And so right now, back in our day, like Charles Dickens in the 1900s, it was always about writing, listening, reading. Like nowadays, nobody reads. Our reading levels decreased. But back in the day, people would listen to War of the Worlds and they thought it was real. It was a different medium. Literature today is dead. So now it kind of makes sense. Like Hunter Thompson obviously is going to kill himself. A lot of these, J.K. Rowling, that's not even her real name. Nobody even knows her real name. She changed her name to a man's name. And you see a lot of that, a lot of pseudonyms, because maybe because writers back in the day knew that fame wasn't good. That fame ultimately ruins your sense of creativity or your artistic license. It sabotages that. So I mean, a lot of that's one of the big reasons why Facebook and Amazon is so big. Is because there's so many writers, and on Twitter everybody's pushing, oh, read my new blog, read my new book, read my new memoir, read my new diet book, self-help book. And nobody's selling books anymore because nobody's reading. And you know maybe there's not anything wrong with that. Maybe if that was just the way it's supposed to be, is because reading is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, I've also heard you've recently written a book.
My first hardcover.
Oh yes. Can you
But
tell me more about that?
yes, absolutely, and I really appreciate the questions and the order of the sequence. And I was just about to nail that, to answer that, so I appreciate. But yeah, I did speak to a professor at San Marcos University about this, and I was going to actually record this as a lesson, because this professor at the University of San Marcos was asking me about how like a bio, if you think if you so a lot of people that use social media don't realize that it's a biohack. That if you think about Pavlov's dog or a slot machine, it's similar to how it uses your dopamine sensors against you. So, but the thing, what I was so when I was discussing with the professor was that, you're able to download your you're not forced to use Facebook. You're able to download your timeline. You're able to download all your tweets. And if you do use Twitter, you're able to use other people's tweets. And there's a way of combining all of your retweets, all of your statuses, all your updates. And there's a way of, instead of making that into what Mark Zuckerberg and what these social media conglomerates give you, which is just a page or a profile, you could actually turn it into. If you ever seen Harry Potter, it's actually you could actually create it into a an arts and crafts. You could make it into a collage. You could. So that's what I do. I when I go on Twitter, I don't tweet. I save everything, and then after a few months, I take all of my tweets, all of my Facebook statuses, all of my memes, and then I bind them together into like a picture book. Into if you ever seen Harry Potter, where that book comes alive, or like a storybook. So yeah, so that's what I did. I created my first hardcover book. It's got pictures. It's got a lot of. It's a memoir, obviously. Written in the first person, not the third person. So it's not he, she. It's I and me. And it's exactly what I really think there's a big demographic for this. I think people are searching for their voice and they're not realizing that they go on Facebook and they feel like nobody's listening to them. But there is a way of being of being able to combine all of your riddles, your jokes, your updates, your paragraphs, your issues, everything that you've posted or other people posted, and there's a way of combining them into like an arts and crafts book, like a little collage of like your timeline for your last 6 months or year. And Google allows you to do that too. They allowed you to print a storybook. So that's really what I think is the future of Facebook and Twitter, because a lot of people, they call it social media, but they don't feel like anybody's listening to them.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. So, if your life was a buffet, what would it look like?
Probably sauteed mushrooms.
Okay, interesting choice.
How
Yeah,
about yourself? How about yourself?
well, if my life was a buffet, it's literally a huge selection of foods from literally everywhere. Like
Mm,
there's the sweets, there's the carbs, the protein and the meat kind of foods, fruits and vegetables, a lot of things
scones.
scattered, yeah, scattered around.
Gotta be soft scones, because the scones are usually just too freaking too dry and too starchy. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if you ever there's a book that girls they make them they call it like an arts and crafts book. Do you do that in London, where you make a collage and you put all your pictures and all these things together? And then there's a certain word for it, and it's not coming to my head. I don't know if you know the word for it.
No, I don't know the word for it, but I have seen people doing a collage of some sort before.
Yeah, it's yeah. So I mean, if you're on Twitter and you're on Facebook and you don't feel like anybody's commenting or engaging, there's a way. If you're able to see your tweets, usually there's a market, or there's a way of market it. There's a genre. So like if you're constantly tweeting about music, you're able to download all those tweets and to make them into a collage. Add pictures, add your Facebook posts, and be the master of your domain, and be kind of be an expert in that area. Um, whether it's for me is in security, I'm constantly talking about, police reform in my books, about how people, when they drive, they act like, the highway is like the internet, like, because people will be on the highway texting and then they expect there to be no traffic, like, people, I don't know if that's a correct analogy, but, you know, people, I mean, the driving I talk about that a lot about how people are terrible at driving, and we expect to get to point A to point B, and with texting and just um, but I mean, this has been an issue since for a long, long time, 15 years, with people driving and being on their phone. So
Yeah,
did
absolutely.
they do that? Did they do that in London too?
Well, I'm not sure if they actually do it, but well, the people I've seen driving, not really, and especially where I'm from, that's very rare. Like the only thing that's common in where I'm from in Manchester, it's only carjacking, and that's it.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't see people often on their phones while driving. It's very rare where I'm from.
Oh man, not over here. People are Snapchatting. People are driving off cliffs. I mean, it is. People are. There's James. If you ever visit LA, there's car chases every day. Every day, there's car chases. People are just fuck the police and just Snapchatting, driving over cliffs. Taking videos and not realizing that. Yesterday, I saw on Saturday, I saw this guy drive through a restaurant. Literally drive through a restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah, the U.S. is insane. They don't really have road rage. It's just people not paying attention, just getting bored, just getting sidetracked.
Especially with those massive highways too.
Yeah, I mean, even the police. I mean, they drive around. They got computers, and I mean, my God, biggest crooks. It's so ironic that, and that's what I was saying earlier, is that like the police, you know, like I when I was working at DMV, they actually canceled their contract. So I mean, some of the places, like I was guarding a nursing home on Memorial Day, and there was a stabbing literally the next block over. And the police will come after and diagnose it and tell you, and they'll come but they'll come in numbers and they'll come with manpower and gun, But as far as like when I told you I got a speeding ticket um, on Saturday, the cop found my BB gun, and he literally to, he 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 thought I was gonna kill him. He started going ballistic and saying, "Why do you have a gun?" and this and that. And I'm like, dude, the police in this country, all they literally when they call them pigs, and there's a reason for it, is because all they do is they show up, they make up a lie, they take whatever they want, and then they leave, and then they report it. But a security guard, like on Christmas, I was helping this Latina singer. All you do is you stand in front of her door for 48 hours. So as far as deterring crime, people, guards that go to the mall and actually see the thieves, as opposed to people actually saying, "Oh yeah, he stole it," and it's he said, she said. Police, they don't really do anything. All people do is they watch TV and they're like, "Oh yeah, the police are so we'd fall apart and they're so important," but they don't realize that police don't really do anything. They respond to calls and then they leave. But they're not there. They don't see anything unfold. All they do is they tell their side of the story. So, a lot of times when you go to your friend's house and they're watching a current affair or like murder mysteries, it's because, a lot of times the police they probably more than likely did plant evidence, and a lot of people that are in jail that's saying they're innocent probably are.
Wow. Oh my. Yeah. I can certainly see that. And um and what was the training like before you became a security guard? Is it similar to what the police does, or is it completely different?
Well, and thank you for asking that. So I was gonna actually get into this, is because I'm not saying that a lot of criminals, they don't go out there and they're not looking for trouble, because a lot of people that are addicted to drugs, they chase that next high, and the way they do it is by breaking the law. You'll see, like I'll see a lady come walk into Rite Aid and steal 9 hairsprays, not because she needs them, but because she's chasing that high, you know. So I'm not saying cops, you know, and they see the camera and they'll throw that girl in jail. I'm not saying that they're more guilty than the criminals. I'm just saying they're lazy. That's all. I'm saying they're extremely freaking lazy. But so but when I applied to be a sheriff, um, he actually told me that the future of cops is actually doing what I'm doing and is working the beat and being on foot patrol and engaging. You know, um, you see it's ever since George Floyd. You see in the States is that maybe the police presence has maybe dropped by like 50%, because they know that Americans know that there's a saying that's called artificial light is the best policeman, because they know that people are vigilant and they could take care of issues themselves unless push comes to shove. So when I was applying to the sheriff's department, he was saying, the laws have the way of drafting and the way of enlisting officers from now on, indoctrinating from now on, if what we're looking for in police officers is people that have a long history, that people that have a history, people that basically the sheriff was telling me, he wants people that could work undercover, people that look like criminals, people that have, even if you had a DUI, he doesn't care. So the times have changed, the rules. If you want to be able to do good in your community and be proactive and be a vigilante, and wear a badge, it's changing. So that's a big plus. There's 200,000. I was reading as far as jails are concerned, there's an opening for 200,000 correctional officers. But the issue with correctional officers is that the criminals are very manipulative. And so if you want to work in a jail cell, if you want to work for the state and you want to work where criminals are housed, then you have to be a straight arrow. You cannot have any tickets, any parking violations, nothing, because the state of California or any state, they know if you're going to be around criminals all day, that they're going to be able to talk a big game. That's the big thing about that guy Charlie Manson. A lot of these criminals, Ted Bundy, they're very good bullshitters. They make people believe things that aren't true. So, but if you want to be a sheriff, if you want to work the beat, if you want to be a patrolman, then what I'm doing actually is I've been on the right track. It's been 4 years of 3 years of public security. I've just started private security, and then they want people that you know that aren't they the sheriff department wants to recruit people that won't polarize others. So if I were to go to a festival, they won't be like, oh, and feel like they're being sized up and that they feel threatened. So they don't want real clean cut anymore. They want people that can engage and that people could open up and tell them, well, hey, this so and so did this and so did that. And so then you could be more of a pillar of your community. If
Okay.
people could tell you, yeah, if people could go ahead and admit to you and give you and tell you their wrongdoings and tell you and like fess up and say, so that's basically what I've, being able to manipulate criminals. That's ultimately is the future, making criminals feel um, feel feel innocent and admonished from their guilt, because um, a lot of times, criminals will see policemen and they want to do good, they want to be better, they want to confess, and they want to, if say they have say that um, they have a history, a track record, or they want to start over, they want a clean record. So a lot of people that hate the police, it's because that they feel threatened by them.
Okay. Yeah, I get
But
that. Well,
Yeah. So
that's all I have for this episode. It was great having you here, Ramsey, talking about what you
so,
do for a job, your blogging and your vlogging, and everything else. It's been amazing.
yes, sir, James. And I'm looking forward to the future. And then you could have me on again. I could tell you all about my escapades and all about the guilty convicts
Great.
I ran into.
And nice. And until next time, stay tuned for more.